New warnings from former CIA Director General Michael Hayden after an investigative report shows that homegrown terror is on the rise. Watch this.
Future attacks against the American homeland will be less well organized, less complex, less likely to succeed, less lethal even if they do succeed. They're just going to be more numerous. And I think, I would add, and more likely to be conducted by citizens or long-term residents of the United States.
General Michael Hayden joins me now. He is a principal at the Chertoff Group as well. General, good morning. Good to have you here today.
Good morning, Martha. Thank you.
You know, this is a report that came out of Britain, and it's very disturbing in terms of what it shows, in terms of who the future terrorist is that might hit us here at home. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Very scholarly report, great discipline, very well done. Our British friends in the Henry Jackson Society looked at the court records of those convicted of terrorism in the United States since the mid-1990s and al-Qaeda terrorism. And the conclusions were surprising. Over half of these individuals were American citizens. 60% of them had at least a college degree. 60% of them were working or in school at the time of their act, at the time of their arrest, and about 25% of them were actually converts to Islam. This kind of cuts against the grain of the general impression with regard to the domestic threat, with regard to the self-radicalized threat. So in that sense, it's really important information.
Yeah, I mean, you're describing these people as, you know, sort of established in this country to some extent, not sort of wandering and susceptible and vulnerable to somebody swaying them into doing something. Very deliberate, very determined. So the biggest question is, how do we find these people and how do we stop them from doing what they want to pull off?
Well, that's why this report is so very important. I mean, we've got large ethnic communities. We called them heritage communities when I was at CIA in Dearborn, Michigan, or Minneapolis, St. Paul, or Fremont, California. And these folks could be made to be more suspicious of their own government by how we go about doing what you just described. Now with this data, we can be more precise. We can be more focused. We have a deeper understanding of the group for whom the al-Qaeda message seems more rather than less likely to stick. And again, I mean, the overall impression is so many of these Americans have nothing to do with the al-Qaeda movement. But now we've got a better understanding of where that message might have some resonance. Yeah. And that's very important.
I mean, you look at the hit on Awlaki, and he has been an inspiration to so many of these people. You go across the board in terms of Nidal Hasan and Faisal Shahzad in Times Square and the whole list of them. You know, so the argument is that in some cases that the hits on these people inspires a new breed of them. I mean, you can't. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, the first thing we have to be very clear about, that you and I are talking about this today, Martha, is a reflection of counterterrorism success. What it is al-Qaeda wanted to do, that complex, high-casualty attack against an iconic target, they are almost incapable of doing now. So we're looking at these lower-order threats. So the first thing to keep in mind is we are actually safer than we used to be. And now we need to look at these residual threats without changing our DNA as a free and as a welcoming society. Those are actually great strengths in the war against terrorism.
You know, but that opens up this whole can of worms of privacy and how you go after these people. I know you have, spent a lot of time, thinking about this, working on it when you were in the administration. Look at Nidal Hasan. I mean, that was not even categorized at Fort Hood as a terrorist attack, regardless of the fact that the writing, many would say, was very much on the wall. And the other issue of, now are we going to have drone surveillance across this country looking for Americans who are supposedly connected to these organizations and want to do us harm?
Right. Well, now, Fort Hood was a terrorist attack, no matter what some people choose to describe it as. But this data, Martha, is very important because it now allows us to address this problem without prejudice and without political correctness. And look, as a professional intelligence officer, that's the space you really want to be in.
What about the future? I mean, you look at the posture, the new administration, John Brennan likely, according to most folks, and you say you think he'll be confirmed, correct?
Right.
What kind of director do you think he will be, and how will he deal with this threat? He has spoken of it as well.
Right. No, I think John will be fine as director. But the interesting thing for me is the whole new team. When you compare Secretary Hagel, Secretary Kerry, Director Brennan, with the folks that they're replacing, Clinton, Petraeus, Gates, Panetta, I think the new team actually thinks like the president, maybe even more than the president does, and would not be as inclined to push back against some of the president's natural instincts. And
does that concern you?
I think it does. No, it really does, because you do want that tension between powerful cabinet officials and the White House. But I think the new team will be more inclined to cut the budget deeper, go with lighter footprints, withdraw from Afghanistan more rapidly, be more reluctant to engage in difficult situations abroad, and more rely on things below the surface like covert action. Now, Martha, in some circumstances, they may be the right decisions, but overall, I think this group will be less inclined to press back against the president's personal instincts.
So those are some serious concerns, I would say.
Yeah.
General,
Yep.
Thank you very much. Always a
Thank
pleasure
you.
to have you with us, sir. We'll see you soon.